Hello,
Hello.
hello. Happy Wednesday.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, hey,
It's
hey.
hump
We're here.
day. Woo, woo.
Oh, God. It is hump day. It is
It
hump day, isn't
is. It
it?
is. It is.
The days keep flying by. I don't know where
Yep.
time is going. All I know is that my kids have exactly 1 month left of school, and I'm so excited. I can't even tell you. Their last day is May 28th, and I am like, somebody said to me yesterday, they're like, not that you're counting down or anything. I'm like, to the very last second, I am.
My my girlfriend bought her Christmas tree for the year.
What?
Yeah.
Like a real tree or a fake tree?
Well, a
Like,
fake tree, a
right.
pre-lit tree.
I'm closing the window so we don't get any outside noise. What? Why? Is there was it on sale?
I have no idea. I just saw a discussion of it on the Book of Face and was like, Christmas
See, I'm the most
already? And then
Christmas.
she was like, I bought it. And I was like, okay, I did the Homer Simpson into the bush.
Yeah,
It was done.
I love Christmas. Like, I am a Christmas fanatic. Like, I love it. I love decorating. But even I am not about talking about Christmas trees in May or April, unless it was some like closeout thing that you could not pass up. So maybe let's say that's what happens. So anyway, hey everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome to I'll Take the L. My name's Mary, and Pigs in Space. And this week, the L is for language. Yay!
Yeah.
Language. Yeah, definitely. Watch your mouth. But before we jump into that, let's do a couple of things. I want to do housekeeping notes. So at some point, I know we stream right now. We're streaming live on YouTube and on Twitch. At some point in the near future, I will give everybody a warning before we're going to switch solely to Twitch. We like it here. We like the community here. It's very easy. We like the tools that we can use. We like what we can do. I'm working on some behind the scenes production stuff. So this will look nicer. And at that point, I'm going to stop streaming on YouTube. And I don't know, I may upload the content afterwards onto the YouTube channel. But if you want to participate in the live stream, Twitch is where you're going to have to be. So I will let everybody know when we do that. The other thing I wanted to talk about, Angie and I were discussing this afternoon. I don't even know what time it was. We're going to add probably another day of streaming to this, but it's going to be more like just a hangout, shoot the shit kind of day. Like we're going to do games, we'll do trivia, like word games, anything. Like we haven't decided what day it is going to be yet, like what night. It might be like a Sunday night or Sunday afternoon thing. I don't know. Just to hang out because we have fun. I'm having fun with Twitch. I don't know. I like all the people I've met on Twitch have been fantastic. So I like the little community that's on here. So we will let you know. We'll update our schedule and all that. But I just wanted to put that out there and let folks know that. And it'll be interactive, so you guys can play too. And maybe there'll be prizes. You never know. You never know.
Ooh la la.
Yeah.
You only know if you show.
Right. How's your week been so far? How's your Wednesday going?
Wednesday's going okay. Ups and a little downs and a little ups and a little downs. But I'm gonna stick with grateful for the theme.
Because,
good.
That's a good word.
Why not? It doesn't start with L. What's the thief? I have a friend who's a librarian, so she might also be half thesaurus.
Okay. I don't know, but I will look that up right now.
Wait, I was gonna do that.
Okay, well,
I'm gonna have to do better if my friends are gonna be librarians and half thesaurus.
Let's see. It's funny because thesaurus.com is terrible. It says other words for so I'm gonna have to click around. It says beholden, indebted, pleased, thankful, gratified, and obliged. I don't know about those last two, but let's see.
They don't, none of them like give out a grateful vibe.
No, they really don't. I'm not really liking pleased. Let's see.
Please,
appreciative. Yeah, there. I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. Indebted just sounds awful.
That sounds like
duty bound. Okay. No. All right. So I don't see an L word, but I'm not really doing a lot of looking right there. So let me ask you.
If you spell it backwards, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, that works. Sure. So let me ask you a question for you. Do you talk nice to yourself when you talk to yourself?
Not all the time. Not all the time at all. Like, I'm working on it, but not all the time. I'm an idiot. I'm so stupid. I'm a dumbass. Okay. Those are some real popular ones. Those are some real popular automatic ones.
Yeah. That's
I would say that's more like self-deprecating as I'm laughing kind of things. A real favorite one is I'm so wide. That's another one that wide. Yeah.
I would never say wide. Okay, I don't think I've
ever
called myself
mirror that I look at that's like when I sit up in the morning and it's right across the bed from me.
Always fun.
Yeah.
First thing in the morning.
Yeah, first thing in the morning. So that's that first thought in the morning that's like, whoo, sets the tone for the day.
Right. So we were, you and I were kind of talking about this on Monday and after the stream and talking about topics for today. And we talked about negative self-talk, like negative language. So as I was doing my research in prep for today, I came across something that I thought was interesting. So I actually did like a scholarly journal search for self-talk and self-esteem, self-image, things like that. And there was a lot. And, I just limited it to a recent search because I didn't feel like going back 20 years. But the thing that I thought was interesting and that came up over and over and over again were all these citations of studies and articles being published in sports journals of all places, like sports and exercise and PT journals. And as I was looking through them, I realized that what it is that this kind of self-talking, like self-language, I guess in a positive, motivating way, is an actual strategy that a lot of coaches of different teams, professionally and, amateur league, really utilize in their their techniques in coaching players. And they players use it, or athletes use it a lot to get themselves prepared before the competitions or before games or whatever their sport of choice is. And it was interesting because I'd never heard of it before, like as an official kind of anything. Like I thought, self-talk, we all talk to ourselves, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But I didn't realize that this was an actual like practice and methodology that is actually utilized in a productive setting. So that was interesting. So then on that side of it, I saw, and it talked about a lot of the, power of positive self-language and self-talking, because you can, motivate yourself to perform better. You can, get psyched up for something. If you believe, you get improves confidence, improves performance. But it's almost like in these cases like a ritual. Like it's they have something they do. They have a mantra they say or however, and they do it, and it's it's part of their technique for preparing for competition. So I thought that was really, really interesting and unexpected, I should say. I was not expecting to see that because I had never heard it before in that context. So
I've never heard that either.
Yeah. So that was like the very positive end of the spectrum. And then what I was looking specifically for was to see how self-talk impacts our self-image, our self-esteem, the way we view ourselves, the way we view our bodies. And
so you're saying like on the positive spectrum, like they were saying positive affirmations. You're great. They're like almost visualizing success,
Yeah.
speaking success to themselves. Okay.
The power of positivity.
Okay.
But I guess, I did not dig deep enough to find out like what the actual method behind it was and but it just was something that every article that was coming up was utilizing this kind of technique in athletics, whether it's professional athletics,
about
college
like visualization
athletics.
and things like that. Like oftentimes they will visualize themselves crossing the finish line first, or throwing the shot put the furthest, or whatever their goal distance is, etc. And so that makes a lot of sense that it would go hand in hand. And you just can't. I mean, it makes sense too that you can't run a race thinking I'm going to fail. You can't. You can't run a race thinking you're going to lose.
No, that would be not good. Yeah, and then like in the I guess I want to say in like the practitioner, the healthcare practitioner area, it comes up a lot in physical therapy and physiology, things like the physiotherapy and stuff like that, which also makes a lot of sense because you're now trying to, motivate yourself to do something, relearn something, tackle something. So, so what is saying is that, if you are having positive thoughts of yourself, or you're visualizing, or however you do it, there is an impact on performance and on your confidence and self-esteem. So obviously the negative works the same, right? I mean, but it was funny because it took me a little while longer to get to negative articles and negative citations. So I don't know if that's because one is more popular than the other, or just the way it kind of came up. But yeah, so there were a couple of things, like there were a couple of like Pat articles that we saw. I shared with you a couple from like the Seattle Times, and it's like, why is it time to stop the negative self-talk surrounding diet and nutrition? And it's that whole thing of like, if you verbally beat yourself up over it, you're going to, by beating yourself up verbally, you're going to refrain from doing the behavior that you're beating yourself up about, which
that article left so much to be desired. But I think the biggest mark that particular article missed is that this is absolutely not the domain of women. It is not the domain of women. Like, to suggest for an instant that men do not struggle with negative self-image and poor self-talk and don't abuse themselves over the choices they make about the foods they eat or what they weigh is just so contrite and so ridiculous. Like,
well, funny you should mention that, because so I don't sleep really anymore.
What?
I don't. It's, I there was a time I remember as like maybe it was in my 20s or my early teens. I was either still living at home. No, I was still living at home, or I was visiting. And I remember saying to my father, don't, he worked a lot. So I was like, don't you sleep ever? He's like, Mary, as you get older, you don't need sleep. And like, that has come back to me in my head so many times now. So anyway, last night around 3:00 in the morning, I'm just kind of scrolling through my YouTube, and I got a suggested article, and it was, suggested video, and it's called "Conversation with a Rare Dinotrophenol Accident Survivor," and it's
I watched about half of
for weight loss. Okay,
I watched about half of that video.
Okay, so it's from Heme Review, HEME. And I haven't dug into this guy's YouTube channel yet.
That guy's hair is like...
Oh, no, it's crazy. But I'm fascinated by it because, like, this was a really good video, and I watched almost all of it. But other topics on him, let me just give you a sampling of what else he does. He has other topics on this channel called like why you should be careful with psyllium husk fiber supplements, interview with a stage 4 lung cancer survivor. So then, those are on that. And then he has another channel, his personal channel called Chubby Emu. And this one's just wild because like his thing is like a TikToker chugged 8 scoops pre-workout supplement. This is what happened. A student drank 5 liters of fiber supplement for dinner. This is what I like. It sounds almost like America's stupid challenges. A dad ate 25 packs of silica gel for breakfast. This is what happens. So I was kind of like looking at this going, what the hell? And then, but I think actually what this is that he finds these crazy articles in medical journals and then like either recreates or talks about them to talk about what it is. Hey, Judy.
Today.
So, and I haven't like learned a lot about him yet because, like I said, I just found him and I don't know what his name is because he doesn't give his name on this. But I believe he's a doctor. Because he works in healthcare in some way because he talks about the medical stuff. His whole channel is like medicine. So last night I came across this and it was an interview with this guy. He's called his YouTube channel name is @Eastbound. So they didn't get his name is Christopher, and he discussed how he OD'd on this weight loss drug, DNP. So I've never heard of DNP before, but but what I thought was really interesting. So he talked about how he got into weightlifting and then how he got into supplements and like then how he had a tragedy in his life. His father suddenly passed away and that really impacted him, traumatized him. And then he talked about how he had gained a lot of weight after that. Like he was young, when he was younger and in like grade school, he was overweight and relentlessly bullied. And then like he discovered weightlifting and bulked up a lot. And then went into like junior high school, played football, wasn't great at it, but like enough to stop the teasing and kept him fit and stuff. And he really got into weightlifting. Then his father died, like I think either before he graduated from high school or in his first year of college somewhere. I can't remember.
It was during high school. Okay, so it had his girlfriend.
Right. All right, you're right. So his father passed suddenly and he gained a lot of weight. So he also talked about how like he would weight lift, but he would binge eat like crazy. Like he never changed his diet. He never did anything to address any kind of relationship with food that he had. So so he gained a lot of weight. And then when he was in college, he decided he wanted to get back into it, lose the weight again. He had a kind of wake up moment where he, finally saw like he had gained like 40 pounds or something and he didn't like what he saw. So he was ready to go. And so he talks about how he went back into weightlifting and then how he went back into supplements, like the supplements we all see at like GNC. And then how when he hit a plateau that he could not get over at all. Like I think he said it was like 220. He just couldn't get past 220. He started looking for other kind of tools to help him, other supplements to help him. And he started off with, I'm not going to remember this. It was, clenbuterol. I can't pronounce drug names. I'm sorry. Clenbuterol. So these are all like steroid drugs or enzymes. And they cause metabolic reactions. So he was talking about this. And now this is where we're at the point where we're getting into the shady stuff. Like he's got to find a source. He's got to, it's not stuff you buy off the count, can't go to GNC and get this. And he started talking about the effects that this had on him. And when he went from this clenbuterol, that was kind of like the lower level of it. And then he switched up to DNP. In between that, what happened was he had hit like another plateau and he really wanted to really, really kick it up.
Right.
And he started talking about how he had such awful body image. Like he actually really talked about and opened up about how he hated his body. He had body dysmorphia. He was a binge eater because he never addressed his diet. And, it was really, really surprising. And then at the same time, refreshing to see a man talk about this. And
especially his age.
Yeah, he's in his 20s, like maybe late 20s, early 30s. And then the other thing is this guy who hosts this YouTube channel, this Team Review Guy,
went through the same thing.
Went through the same exact thing, right? Because he was like a bodybuilder. If you go to his channel, Chubby Emu, he's been on for like many, many years. And if you go back in his channel to the beginning, it's all like weight loss and like fat loss. And so he was in the same kind of situation. So this guy, Christopher, was using DMP, which apparently is like an insane steroid, he OD'd on it, and it sounds pretty freaking awful. And apparently it's very rare for people to live through an overdose. It's usually very fatal. Crazy. It's usually fatal, and that's it. So, and he talked about the PT he had to go through afterwards, and waking up in the ICU, he was in a medically induced coma, like all this stuff. And how he had to go back to therapy and learn about how to handle his binge eating disorder and his body dysmorphia, because it was not he could not ever go back to any kind of supplements or any of these drugs. So it was really interesting. Like, it was just like a weird coincidence that came across this morning or last night. So it was good to see a man talk about it. So then,
be able to.
And then both were very open about it. And it was really good because like he would ask a question, Christopher would answer, and then he'd relay something from his experience. They had very, very similar experiences with substances and with body image issues. So that was it's a really good YouTube channel. I will put the links to that in the description, because I think it's just it looks like a fascinating channel. I'm gonna have to dig around in there a little bit. So anyhow, like that was a tangent, but anyway, so it says here, in our diet obsessed culture, there's a pervasive idea that shaming ourselves about our perceived food failings and body inadequacies is motivating. And reading that, you're just like, what? If you are somebody who talks toxically to yourself about your weight and your food choices, and you completely are like, yeah, it's totally motivating.
Well, and you also have to consider, like, you might have decades, however old you are, years of family members messaging also rolling around in there that you've taken on, like, these are all things that you've just. Doesn't everybody's mother tell you, like, you only have 5 bites and then you're done? Like, and then that 6th bite is a sin. And you know what I mean? Like, doesn't everybody's mom say that?
The thing that I hated about this article, I have to say, though, is that it's talking about, this toxic, negative talk to yourself and everything. And then it's like, and then next sentence, it's like scolding you. It's like, it's like, this, because it's so condescending, right? It makes people who treat themselves with kindness not want to be with you, and it hurts your physical and mental health, right? So it's just really so negative body and food talk is associated with stress, depression, anxiety, as well as unhealthful eating behaviors at like highly restricted diets. No kidding. So it says women who prioritize their appearance are more likely to engage in negative talk about their bodies and unhealthy eating behaviors, and women who care more about their health than appearance, on the other hand, are more likely to show themselves compassion. Right.
Shame on you.
And then, it gives the requisite, like, I can't even tell you. I didn't know how horrible it was until I listened to myself and I heard what I was saying. Yeah. Okay. So I have to roll my eyes a little bit at that, because the way that this was written was very, very
it's terrible.
It was terrible. It was a terrible article, but, it was a very popular article.
It's like the overweight or eating disorder or not know what to do version of slut shaming. Like, it's terrible.
It is terrible.
And then they give you nothing. They're like, listen to that voice. Like, when if you want to learn how to not talk to yourself poorly, listen to that voice.
Yeah.
Okay. Learn what that voice is saying, and then say something more compassionate. Take a second look in the mirror and say you like your eyebrows. Like, here we go again with that useless,
eyebrows. What the hell are we
useless? Like, here we go.
Why is everyone so obsessed with my eyebrows? I don't understand. No, I'm kidding.
But there, like when in reality, there's much you can do to combat that negative self-talk. There's so much you can do to actually really change how you talk to yourself, not just how you see yourself. Like we talked about that on Monday. Like there's a lot you can do, but there's a lot you can actually, there are steps that you can take to actually change the way you talk to yourself.
So Scott says, so in your opinion, does a lot of this start at home for these people? I know there are outside influences, bullies, etc. But do you think parents or family members may be enforcing these behaviors from a young age? Yes.
I think it can be. I think because you just never know how people take things in. Like you just never know how people take things in, number one. So I'm not blaming anybody for what they say or don't say, even though I did say that whole 5 bite things and the 6 bites of sin. Because there are people out there who say those things to their children. But then there's also other outside forces. There's television. There's not seeing dolls who look like you, or there's just all sorts of outside messaging that children get that start to influence how they talk to themselves. And then they go to school, and then they start listening to music and watching music videos, and and it's a steamroller effect. But I'm not going to sit here and blame parents for all the ills of the world. But yeah, I do think that we don't necessarily teach our kids the best habits with food. Like for me, I was 21 years old. Excuse me, Kitty. I don't want you to come up here right now. You come over there. There you go. Thank you. I was 21 years old when I understood the fact that babies know when they're hungry and when they're full. So babies will instinctively let you know when they're hungry, and they will instinctively stop eating when they're full. And then we as adults put those babies on schedules. And over time, we teach our babies as they become children to stop listening to their internal signals and listen to a schedule for breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wonder why, when our kids won't eat, or they say they're full and they won't eat their whole plate, and then we say, no, finish your plate. And then we have kids with problems with food.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's not a reason to shame anybody. It's just something that I learned in 2021. And if I had known that when my daughter was younger, I might have approached food differently.
Yeah, I would probably have approached food differently if I wasn't placed on a diet from the time I was 6. I mean, looking back on it, I was probably chubby for
Mm-hmm.
whatever, a 6-year-old, but I don't think I was anywhere near looking obese or anything like that. So I don't even really know why or what and I haven't spoken to my mom about this because I just, it's not something I feel like discussing, but as a mom and having a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old and seeing what they look like and what their bodies look like, I would never consider putting either one of them on a diet at this age. I would also watching them, knowing that they're not even fully developed or growing. I mean, they're growing,
right.
They're not, what they look like now may not be what they look like in 6 months. My youngest is we can always see when they're changing. My youngest has grown 2 inches. She's getting taller. She's filling out, so I would never think of putting her on a diet. And yet when I was 7, I was put on the diet.
Right.
And
see, when I was 7, I had my tonsils out. I was a starving kid because my tonsils were like this. And when my tonsils came out, I was no longer starving. But because I was hungry all the time, I never got over that. And that's how I got to be a fat kid. You know, and so nobody ever told me I had to clean my plate, but I always did. You know, and my grandmother would offer me seconds, and then she would call me a fat kid. She'd be like, "Here, have some more."
We got a lot of contradictory. I got a lot of contradictory messages in my like childhood. Why aren't you eating? Don't eat that. Why aren't you eating? Yeah. Don't eat that. So, you know, so looking, like I said, looking at my kids, I would never, ever put either one of them on a diet. And, you know, the funny part is like, I don't even know if I put them on a diet, if I put, let's just say my youngest is the age that I was when I started. So I don't even know if she'd understand fully what was going on. Like she's very smart and she would know that she's on a diet because she sees YouTube. She knows what this is. She knows that, you know, she works out with me sometimes. So she knows that like, I eat healthier and I try not to eat a lot of junk and stuff like that. But like, you know, I'm just thinking of it like, from seeing my youngest kid and then thinking of myself in that situation. And it's just like, all I can say is like, wow, what a fucked up thing to do to a kid. Right. And then right from there, like you're telling you're telling me that I have really messed up eating habits already. Right. And that you're teaching me that eating is bad. Right. So, but then I go,
and I don't know how to make good choices.
Right. I don't know how to make good choices, but I'm 7. So, not really supposed to be making the best choices, but, you know, the other thing, but okay, we're having, you know, our family's coming over for cake and coffee tonight. So you have to eat that. Like, so this is the craziness, right? So there's always food in the house. There's always people eating. There's always copious amounts of food. Why aren't you eating? Don't eat it. Like the typical family kind of dynamic, right? So that was from the time I was like 7 through like my senior year of high school. Like that was my entire, like, it was about like, you know, 10 years of that. So I walked out of that house with a fucking crazy ass perception of what normal eating was. And had absolutely no positive vocabulary to talk to myself about any of my eating habits whatsoever, because they were always negative. And I mean, I'm not bagging on my mom because like my mom and I get along really well, but we had a really hard time growing up because of this. This was a huge issue between the two of us. But like I distinctly can to this day remember being like 8 or 9 and I was on a diet and I snuck a chocolate chip cookie, right? And I just distinctly, I can still see this and hear it. Like my mom getting in my face and being like, did you enjoy that? Was that good? Like, you know, yelling at me for eating a cookie, right?
Chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah. So I did not have the language or the framework or the confidence to talk to myself in a compassionate way, or to even understand why my eating habits were so messy, right? And and I, like I mentioned before, I'm an emotional eater. So can you just imagine like me being in this situation where like I'm constantly fighting or feeling like I'm a disappointment or, you know, less than because I'm overweight to my mom, to my parents and my family. And then, you know, it's like, I'm just going to eat to feel better about that. Right. So it's like a constant cycle. So, yeah, I've never had anything positive to say about my eating habits to this day. I still don't. And the thing is that now I have 2 children, 2 girls, and there's no way in hell I'm like even bringing that, like, there's no way in hell I'm having them experience what I experienced. So and Scott is very good at checking me. Like he will check me and he'll say it in front of them too. Like, you know, don't say, if I go there and I start saying stuff about myself, he'll check me on it because he doesn't want them to hear that. He doesn't want them to see me beating myself up. And, you know, and he knows me well enough to know if I'm in my head doing it, not doing it out loud. But, you know, there's no way that I'm going to give my kids that disordered thinking to talk, to around food. So we have a very loose kind of attitude about food in this house, in my house, in terms of like Scott said, my mother was never like that. I wasn't ever forced to finish everything on my plate, but I knew a lot of families who had that rule. So in my family, we, there was one, you got dinner, like you either ate it or you ate cereal. That was your choice. So there was no like, I'll make you this, I'll make you that. So in my house, we're kind of different because I'm usually eating something different than what other people want to eat because I'm eating my meal plan or whatever.
Chicken and rice and broccoli.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, but
but it works for you. It works for
me.
you.
Like it's fine.
It's delicious.
But I also have 2 children that don't like food.
Right.
Like my oldest child subsists on popcorn and chicken nuggets. And my youngest likes ice cream.
I have a nephew who has
strawberries
on chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese for 34
macaroni and cheese, that's
years.
The other one. So this is how the attitude is in my house. My oldest will come downstairs at like 8:30 and be like, "Mom, can I have macaroni and cheese?" And I'm like, sure, why not? Like, because I know she hasn't eaten really, because she, my kids are grazers. We don't really ever we sit down. Maybe we try to once a week have a sit down meal all together, and we try to sit down. But like for the most part, everybody's grazing in my house. So we keep food, I keep fruit, I keep snacks, cheese, things like that that they like to eat that they can get, and that's fine. But that never happened in my house. That didn't fly in my house growing up. So I don't have a problem with if my kids don't want to eat what my Scott and I are eating, if they want me to make them chicken nuggets, if they want me to make them popcorn chicken, if they want macaroni. Like, I've found shortcuts around all of this so that I don't have to feel like a short order cook. But, I'm not going to make them feel awful because they don't want to eat what I'm eating. Like we get them. Right. Like if we make something, we always ask them to try it, or, and one is more adventurous than the other. My youngest definitely is me. She's got a smell, taste, texture thing going that she won't eat certain foods. And my oldest is a little more adventurous when it comes to food. She tried sushi. She didn't like it, which is more, I won't even touch it. So she's got that up on me. But we really try not to demonize food in my house because that was the way I was raised.
Right.
Food was really bad, but it was also the most amazing social gathering thing on the planet. And everything was surrounded.
Yet another
was the heart of everything. Right. So, I didn't have any kind of positive dialogue to go with me at all. And I still don't. It's still something I have to work on.
Well, you know what the thing is though? Like, you can. Yes. You can have and that's like that whole article again, while mentioning it, still missed the mark. But you can have, and you deserve to have, a positive dialogue,
right?
Regarding food. And I commend Scott for calling you out openly in front of your kids because it's good for you, and it challenges you. But what I challenge Scott, and I challenge you to go a step further. When he calls you out about your negative talk regarding food, I challenge him, and I challenge you to challenge yourself to play it all the way out. Like, why are you bad because of this behavior, because of this choice? Or what is it? Like, whatever this negative talk is, why is it negative?
Right.
Why, you know what I mean? Like, this is how you find your compassion, because you have to find your compassionate dialogue, right? So some of the things that I've learned, these are the tools, of course, like here I go. I am, and I think, you know what, maybe I need to say this, like, I don't know. I think everybody looking at me can tell right now. Like, I am not a therapist. I don't play one on TV. I am just actively in therapy. And I'm just sharing some of the tools that I've learned. If your story resonates with me, with what I'm saying, there are links in the description and there's help for you. Please, please use those links and resources. That's what they're there for. But
let me just jump in one question.
Yes.
And I think it's important that, while we give this disclaimer that we're not professionals in any way, shape, or form, and don't give any medical advice whatsoever, I want to just stress again, the importance of everything that Angie is talking about, because of the fact that she is giving some insight into something that we do not see a lot of discussed in the social media sphere around weight loss, obesity. She is giving us actual insight into actual therapy that is required to deal with some eating when you have disordered eating and you have issues like this. So don't you laugh when you say you're just somebody going through, but
I am. This is just my lived experience. Right.
Yeah. Right. But there's not a lot of people talking about that lived experience. This is what we talked about last week. There's a lot of people saying they have binge eating disorder, but a lot of them aren't showing you or talking about what they're actually doing to deal with that, or expressing or explaining what that is in their life, Not that they owe it to us. Again, I'm not going to say they owe us that, but I'm just making it a point of saying there's a void there of some reality that people don't get to see. And this is what you're providing. And I find that to be incredibly helpful. So yes, please continue. Tools to help
some
us.
of the tools, some of the tools or some of the techniques that I've been using to work on my negative inner dialogue, regardless of what it isn't mentioned to, whether it's how I look or what I eat or, my work or whatever, is challenging the thoughts. So whatever it is that I'm saying or thinking about myself, like I'm so wide or I'm an idiot or whatever, is the people that love me the most, would they agree with that? Like, that's the number one thing that, like, if I say this and I say this to my therapist, that's the first thing she would ask me is, do the people that love you agree with that statement? Play it all the way out to the end. Ask yourself, would you say this to somebody else? We saw, like, that was your one of your biggest takeaways from all of your research, is what you told me, is that we are the hardest on ourselves. We are far harder on ourselves than we are on other people. Would you say this to somebody else? And if you wouldn't say these things to somebody else, why are you saying them to yourselves? Right. And you need to say this to yourself, and you need to say it out loud in front of your kids. They need to hear you say these things. Like, don't just challenge the thought, or, don't just stop saying it. Challenge it all the way out. And as you do this, it's a muscle, just like willpower or just like your glutes,
Right.
You got to work it out. Like, you have to work those things out, and you're not going to get it perfect every time. And, Scott will catch you doing it in your mind and all of those things. But, as you do them, you'll get better at it, and you will eventually be able to make those decisions that used to give you shame. You'll be able to make those decisions and realize that they're nothing to be ashamed of. Or, hi.
I'm gonna get the dog.
Oh, I thought that was somebody sneaking in.
No, not yet. Anyway, I'll be right back.
But you'll be able to make those decisions without shame or guilt or feelings of judgment, and
right. And so the other article that I want to touch on, because I like looking at articles because I like to know that these things are actually true. Like, it's not just because I think they're true, but there's actually there's actually truth to it. So there was an article that I shared with you. It's from the Journal of Cognitive, Affective, and Behavioral Neuroscience. And it's called Internalized. Oh, wait, that's not the one. Is it that the one? Hold on. Sorry. Was that it? Yeah, no, it is that one. Okay, because it has the long discussion. I'm sorry. I'm throwing through this. So many articles. This is how prepared we get for this.
I know. I'm looking at the links. Which link is it?
I'm going to tell you in a second as soon as I find it back. All right. So it's the one from it's Understanding Self-Directed Stigma, Development of the Weight Bias Internalization Scale. And it was published in September of 2012. And the reason why I liked this article it was published in the journal Obesity, which is actually is the major journal for obesity studies. So this is not some like crappy journal. Just so everyone knows, it was referenced a lot at when I used to work as a medical librarian. It was one of the most requested journals that we had. So there's an actual metric for this, right? So this is not negative self-talk is not just something we do. There's an actual metric that shows how it affects us. Like there's an actual tool that can be used. It's called the weight bias internalization scale. So it says it's an 11-item measure assessing internalized weight bias among overweight and obese people. So it'll ask questions like, I feel like it's my fault for being obese, or like it gives these questions, and you're supposed to, and you're supposed to, rate how this feels. So like, here's an example. These are some of the things. It is my fault that I'm overweight. As an overweight person, I feel that I'm just as competent as anyone. I am less attractive than most other people because of my weight. I feel anxious about being overweight because of what people might think of me. I wish I could drastically change my weight if only I had more willpower. So these are, whenever I think about being overweight, I feel depressed. I hate myself for being overweight. So these are, you would rate your feelings of truth or not feeling them, right? And then they would take it. So this study, the common knowledge is that, yes, people who have really negative self-esteem and talk to themselves in like in negative ways, obviously if there's a correlation between eating disordered, unhealthy eating habits, depression, anxiety, stress, blah, blah, blah. And it talks about that being true of people who admittedly, like self-reported, or face a discrimination for being overweight. So, however that came, like someone said something to them, they were treated a different way, they felt that they were being discriminated based on their physical appearance, and that physical appearance being overweightness. So that plays back into how they feel about themselves and how they'd score on this test, right? Mm-hmm. But then they took a group of overweight people who had never experienced discrimination because of their weight, and they felt they've never experienced discrimination for their weight, and they gave them the same test, and the results were almost very similar. There was no difference. And what they found from this was that it doesn't matter if you are somebody who is affected by other people's what they say to you and how they make you feel directly, like what we've experienced by, with being told to go on a diet, being not chosen because we're fat, whatever it is, however that discrimination, overt discrimination, shows itself. There's no difference, because people who would say they have not been discriminated against are still being bombarded by everything externally to feel negatively about themselves, yes, and to talk negatively about themselves.
I would 100%
so it doesn't matter
with that.
If you have been a recipient of negative action or words because of your weight, or if you're just overweight and walking around existing in our world and no one's ever said anything to you about your weight, you still have these internalized, yes, bias of your weight. And
absolutely,
that was kind of what they were trying to prove, was that it's not just, people being smacked in the face with their fatness.
Obesity.
It's
yes,
right. It's that just existing in our world, in our society, you're made to feel terrible about how you feel, about how you look. And then mm-hmm, this is how you talk to yourself. Mm-hmm. And whether it's stress or however it is, it happens. And
it's crazy, because even listening to that, I'm like, because I would venture to say that I am one of those people who, until I came to YouTube, I never felt discriminated against because of my weight, no matter how big I was. And I was 360 pounds when I came to YouTube. I was a big girl. I never felt discriminated against in any situation, even when I had to ask for a seatbelt extender on a plane. Like, never felt discriminated against. But I have all those questions like, I hate myself for being fat. I feel like it's my fault for being fat. I feel less attractive than other people. Even when I felt attractive to the people that I cared about, I still felt less attractive than other people. Like even when even when it didn't matter, I didn't need to feel attractive to other people. I still felt less attractive than other people.
Right.
But I still feel like there's a part of me that's like, but that's not society's fault. It's my fault because I'm a fat ass. Like, I still struggle with that.
Right, right. And here, you want to hear something else that was interesting from this study? So, it says it showed similar results to previous research by demonstrating a relationship between weight bias and self-esteem, mood states, and body image concerns. So previous studies only measured attitudes towards other people who are overweight. These results suggest that the more highly one has internalized weight bias, the greater one's body image concern, depression, anxiety, stress, and self-esteem. No shit, Sherlock. So then it said, extending previous research, this study was also demonstrated that higher levels of weight bias internalization are related to greater eating disturbances, including higher levels of drive for thinness, as well as more frequent binge eating episodes. And this is the part that was interesting, additional interesting finding was that these scores, the weight bias internalization scale scores, did not correlate with BMI. So it suggested that the degree of internalization of weight bias has absolutely no dependence upon how thin or fat you actually are. It's what you feel or are made to feel. So it has nothing to do with your weight. It has to do with how you feel about your weight. That is really interesting to me because I basically yesterday was like flipping through YouTube where I came across a channel, and I'm not going to even talk about it, other than to say I watched a video of 20 minutes of a woman who was extraordinarily thin, telling herself she was fat for 20 minutes, and I was like, it's amazing. I mean, now I'm not going to say anything badly because she may have I don't know. I'm not going to say she has body dysmorphia, but she obviously feels a certain way about how she looks. When you would ask 10 people on the street if she was fat, they would say no. Right? So to me, that just shows, like, doesn't matter if it's true or not, if you're overweight or not, or underweight, it doesn't matter how your bias towards weight is going to, it's about how you feel, how you're made to feel. So whether you're being made to feel by somebody else, by the world, whatever it is, it's there. And that in turn is reflected on how we motivate ourselves and talk to ourselves. And there was another one that I gave you. It was about what language people prefer to use when they describe obesity, right? When you're talking about being overweight. And they said they anything that was fat shaming, like, fat or, the usual crap, they did, obviously it was not their preference. They preferred neutral terms like overweight or,
healthy weight.
They didn't like, they felt more positive about words like that did not have a negative connotation associated with them, which, again, I was kind of like, well, doesn't overweight have but this is my bias, right? Because overweight is not it's not a loaded term. It's just a descriptor. But when I think about overweight, I have negative connotation to it, which is not what the word is. Obviously, it's just a descriptor. Just like fat is just a descriptor, but we put all this baggage.
Well, fat is a thing. I mean, fat is just a thing. Fat is a macro. I don't know. I mean, and for me, like, coming from a medical field, I don't have a problem with medical words.
No, not as well.
For me, I don't have a problem with obese and morbidly obese because they're terms.
Right.
But I know people who are incredibly offended by the term morbid, because like, describing me as morbid. Like, okay, but
I mean, like, I use the terms morbidly obese and obese if I am describing myself, or if I have described myself in the past, or if I've described other people, because I know what those terms mean in a medical version. Like I know that that's, I hate to say it this way, but it's like a degree of fatness, right? Or overweightness, right? So there's like, you know, you're fitting, it's based on your BMI. So if you fit in this scale, and I hate BMI, I don't like it, but you know, I can explain something of what a description is easily by saying obese or morbidly obese rather than just saying they're overweight, right? If I'm trying to like express something or describe how I looked at a point, you know, me saying I was overweight 10 years ago is different than me saying I was morbidly obese 10 years ago, right? At least to me, that's two different things. Because overweight could be like 10 pounds overweight when I was like, you know, 200 pounds overweight. So there's a huge difference there. So I don't have a problem with medical terminology, but I also don't have a problem with other words too. I don't have a problem when people describe me using other words, but I use those same words to beat up on myself.
Weird.
Very weird. Something I'm trying to work. I have to say, when I became a parent, I became more aware of it than I was prior. Like I readily admit that my favorite pastime is to beat up on myself. Like I take on I put a lot on my, my weight, my eating habits and my exercise because I feel, and I feel like if I don't work out every day or 6 days a week, that it's a failure. You know, it's not. It's not a failure. It's not a person. It's not a moral statement on me. It's not, you know, a statement of me as a human being. But I was
it's a lot of stress.
I was trained to do that, right? I was trained to feel that way. And you know, it's funny because
you can. Why do you do that to yourself?
This is after therapy too, after many years of therapy. So could you imagine what I must have been like when I was like in my 20s and 30s and not getting help for this? Yeah. And, you know, still getting a lot of feedback from that place that was making this the problem. And I like will straight out say, like, I won't even like, you know, like I said, I don't want to rag on my mom. I love my mom. But, you know, if she even attempts to talk about my kid's appearance in any way, shape, or form that has to do with their weight, I just shut that shit down right away. Like I remember. And I got, you know, because it's always so well-meaning, right? Like, and I don't know, honestly, I couldn't tell you if it's well-meaning in the sense of, that she literally is just, this is the way she grew up and this is the words that she chooses to use. And I know what the meaning and intent is versus this is a concern trolling, right? I can't tell, I can't even tell you which it is because I tend to believe it's the former, right? But like, I got the whole, like when I started on my weight loss journey, I got a whole thing from her about like, you know, it's so important. Oh no, not when I started my weight loss journey, when I had my kids, when I got pregnant. It's so important that you try to lose weight and that you model good behavior for your children because you don't want them, this is what she said to me, you don't want them to have the same kind of childhood that you did or have experiences like you did. And I just was like, I looked at her and I was like, yeah, that's right. They won't have the same experiences that I had. And there's a really good reason why they won't, you know, like, cause I don't want to throw it back on her because obviously she's not throwing the food in my mouth all these years. Right. So, and I don't blame her for it. And if I did, I've gotten over that, you know, like I'm in a different place in my life, but it's funny that that's but like just in that statement, you can see that's the perspective, right? You can just now see like, this is the view that's coming from. And that is just crazy.
She thought she was helping.
She thought she was helping.
And you weren't helping yourself.
Right.
At 7 years old.
Yes. Yeah. And now I have to model the behavior after the behavior that's been modeled for me was completely destructive. So yay. So like we have, I have very strict kind of like, we don't go there with, my mom doesn't go there with my kids. So, you know, and even now when I talk to her, like after I had my surgeries, you know, there's only a certain point that I'll talk to her about it. Like she, you know, because it's, again, it's kind of like a mixed message where, you know, I'm so glad you lost all this weight, but why do you have to get plastic surgery? Like, why do you have to do that to your body? Isn't that scary? Like, and it's more, she was worried about me going and having surgery and not just what I was, but it's like, you know, it's like you can't ever win, right? I can't win no matter what I do. So I just limit the conversation to what I know is not going to end up in a weird me hanging up the phone feeling like crap, basically.
Right.
But you know, the positive to this is that when it goes there with her or goes there with anyone, I may not be able to stick up for myself to myself. I can do it to other people. So I can shut that down in like 2 seconds when somebody's trying to go there with me. And that's but I can't wonderful. Do it with myself. Yeah. I mean, well,
just practice it.
Yeah. True.
Just practice it. Why do you have to put up with that bullshit from you? Like, where's New York Mary when you need her?
I don't know. But
Scott, come on!
It's my favorite pastime, and I can't stop doing it. It's my favorite thing to do. No,
we're gonna get you a DJ table, and
that's what he said. Oh my god, that's so funny. That's what he said. He said that to me yesterday because I was all sitting there all pissed off at myself because I was all aggravated, and he's like, "We gotta get you a DJ, so we gotta get you a new hobby." I was like, okay, that is so funny. That's exactly what he said to me. So yeah, Scott says, I tell her every time to stop beating up on my best friend. I got it covered. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I believe you, Scott. She's stubborn.
There you go. So that's how we talked about this topic for an hour.
We did it. So
you answered back to your original question earlier today.
I know. I was like, well, it's my life story.
Just to sum up, negative self-talk is very, it influences everything. It influences you more than you think it does, obviously.
Way more
than, and then we have the science to prove it. There is data to prove it. And, you know, I just feel the need to say again, like we've had it from on the negative side of it, but I like to say that, you know, it does bear out that on the positive side, like I started saying in the beginning, is that this is a technique that's used to motivate athletes, a lot of athletes to motivate people who are in like recovery for PT and stuff like that, physical recovery for things. This is a method that's used to help people be successful and motivated. And so, you know, the whole hope is not lost. If you can give yourself negative and make you feel terrible, then you can turn it around and make it better. It just takes a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Ways to do it. There's therapy. There's cognitive behavioral therapy. Look it up on YouTube. There's resources. There's links. There's all sorts of ways. Keep following us. We're going to keep talking about stuff like this. There's hope.
And it's not just about weight either. It could be about anything. Yeah, like if you're talking about yourself about anything, like if you're going to call yourself stupid in the intellectual capacity, like, you know, I'm so stupid compared to this person, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. Like, I got you, Scott. Any kind of negative self-talk that you have is directly related to your self-esteem and your self-image and your performance and motivation and depression and anxiety and stress and all those wonderful things, which then kick up your hormones and different hormones in your body to make you feel just as crappy as you are saying you do. And in people who are overweight, it can lead to weight gain because it can cause you to eat more because of the chemical paths that happen in your body because of it. So it's data driven, it's real. It's not just you making yourself feel like crap. There's reasons.
It's not the end of the world.
It's proven that it's proven that we are. It's not just ourselves. It's by the environment that we live in. Also plays a huge factor in that. You know, my thing is like I've been talking about, I've just kind of removed myself from some of the things that bother me or that influence it. And I think that's probably a good thing. If you can remove yourself from some of that, that's probably helpful.
Yes.
So thank you to everybody in the chat and all the lurkers who were there. I see the lurkers. I see you. I don't
see anybody.
I see the number. So I know they're lurkers. Thank you to everybody who
you.
watches, everyone who's going to catch this on the replay. Thank you.
Sorry for my crappy lighting.
It's okay.
Coming to you from my sick bed because I don't feel good.
You'll feel better soon.
Sooner or later.
Yeah, sooner or later.
At least you got to see my mug.
Yes, I enjoy seeing your lovely face. It makes me smile.
I washed my face and hands. I did before I came.
Why? You weren't going to touch us, right?
No, I'm not going to touch anybody.
All right. So we'll be back on Monday. Topic to be announced after we figure out what we want to talk about. Same time.
Get up with the source.
Yes, we'll figure something out. If you have suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments, send an email, hit us up on any of the socials. That's linked in the description. Again, if you are looking for any kind of resources to help with mental health or any kind of disordered eating, or unhealthy attitudes towards eating, and you're looking for some help, there's a bunch of resources listed in the description below. They are available 24/7. So if you need them, please make use of them. Again, we'd like to thank all of the people on Twitch that support us and who link to us, all the DJs listed below, all the other channels, streamers, the gamers, the DJs, everyone who is getting the word out. We thank you so much. If you're not following our channel already on Twitch, please consider doing so. It's every follower helps. And we are, like I said, we're trying to build our community here because we like it over here on Twitch. It's fun, friendly, fun people. At some point we'll be exclusively on Twitch, but like I said in the beginning, I'll let y'all know. And we'll have some more content eventually too. So that's all coming up in the next couple of weeks when I finish figuring out everything I have to do. So, when I'm in my free time, copious amounts of uninterrupted
amounts of free time.
Right. I will figure it out. So again, everyone, thanks for watching. We will see you on Monday. Angie, it's always wonderful to see you and talk to you.
Always a pleasure.
With me. And on that note, I will say goodbye, everybody. See you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be good.
Be good.